Hello, this is the last, hopefully, discussion, at least for now, of battery analysis. And in this section, in this video, I'm going to finally get into really this island we're making and what kind of battery should we select. I think we, in the last kind of video, said, well, we don't care about storage, let's get the one with the lowest cost per kilowatt, because we have to build a lot of batteries to get all of our solar power into storage. Then we're going to, clearly, if we're going to use a battery, we're going to have to make more solar capacity than our demand. And we're going to have surplus solar capacity. So I am going to go through this whole kind of analysis where we look at how much load we have, how much solar power we have, how much surplus solar we have for solar, and then go kind of across. I'm looking down here at the bottom, and how much storage we have over the course of a day. In this case, we store it when we have sunlight, and we discharge it when we have no sunlight. Okay, and then I'm going to so that's how we'll make a table kind of surplus solar power. It's going to have a lot of these max min things and all of that, and we have to figure a little bit out what hour to begin with. I should say I was in a waiting room. I got some problems. And it was very quiet in the waiting room. I tried to make this video there, so this is my second try. It didn't work. Not because of the waiting room, because of my idiocy. Now, when we do all of this storage analysis, here's our kind of summary page where we'll show this, not how much savings we just get from diesel, but this time how much savings we get from putting a battery, solar, and also diesel together. We'll put all of those in and finally see what's the cost of our little island system. Now, this could be an enormous electricity system, and the principles wouldn't be all that different. The reason they work best here is because we have such high cost, such high marginal cost of power in some hours, and then such low marginal cost in others, from our last kind of thing. So once we put all the diesel here, this is where we get our total cost. If you compare that to our original cost with diesel, that's pretty good savings. And then this was our system if we had no battery. So this was just diesel and solar together. And then this is where we put them all together. And in this situation, there was some savings, and these savings were 19%. And it was very similar to the last kind of things where we go through how much is our cost of capacity, what's our fixed O&M, what's our in the diesel we have some fuel costs, and then what's our what are all our parameters, and then we add them all up and see what's our total capacity cost and fixed O&M cost of the solar plus the battery, and then what's the additional cost of the diesel that I said we still kind of have to have there. I would think it would get cloudy on some days, and we're not going to have enough storage really to capture those cloudy days, so we still need some diesel. So it's really the diesel cost versus the solar cost. Okay, so then an issue with the storage is how do we count for efficiency? I consider efficiency like in this little water tower. If you push the water up, when you go down, it leaks out. It kind of leaks out. So you have to push enough water up and then pull it down. But when you pull it down, you kind of have to put extra up in there to account for the efficiency. So That's a little bit of a pain, and we have to do this. And then I remember repeating here, but the storage analysis, there's a whole bunch of how much do we take in from storage and how much do we take out. It's kind of like a DSRA account. How much do we put in or out, or a cash flow sweep? It's got those same sort of modeling mechanics. And then the hard part is really, at the end of the day, the thing we really don't know, here, I'll look up here, is how much solar capacity should we put in? And if I put a little more solar capacity, I'm looking at the top, the savings, I'm looking at this number, the savings are going down. If I put a little more battery, sorry about that. Here, in this case, the savings went up. That's really bad. Okay. So we're trying to maximize this. If we start putting so much battery in, eventually it just hits an optimal point and goes down. And the solver can be used to kind of find that optimal point. We just have to do a kind of maximization function, but we have to maximize the cost subject to both the solar size and the battery size. I'm a little worried about that. I'm kind of freaking out, if you want to know the truth. But I try to mess around with that solver a lot, and it's sometimes a little difficult. Now, before we start, or as we start, okay, so the first thing I did was I said, all right, well, let's get go to this battery database, and because we figured out, well, the low-cost lithium, let's do the best case, in the microgrid case, that had a duration of only 1 hour. So we had all of these different batteries, and we did that other analysis with Power BI. I'm not going into Power BI to just find that one. The one thing I'm going to do only one tiny time is I am going to open generic macros and format this sheet. Shift Control Alt C, and I'm going to leave this with a color of this one. Leave that one. We won't add the links, and then the reason I did that is now we can see that the battery came from the purple analysis, and this is brown. I can hardly see this brown. I hope it's a little tiny different color. And bad coloring choice, but whatever, I won't do that again. Promise. Let's get back to the real subject, Jesus. Okay, and back. So I'm also going to show that this is highly affected by the. And I didn't do the stupid. Oh no, I have to do a conditional formatting to get that back. I'm not going to do that right now. Oh my God. I'm going to show you. Let's pause. Okay, embarrassing. I just used the conditional formatting to do that. Okay, now. Probably could have done it about 8 zillion times easier. I'm just press Alt WFF, okay, and we put a load pattern in, and let's keep staring at this kind of total savings. This one plus this one is 32% savings. Now, if we had something that was coincident with solar, then the savings from the battery went way down. We didn't need this. This optimization didn't work. If we have it non-coincident with solar, then the solar power isn't very economic, but the battery really helps you out. If this was just kind of a variable load, we get a different kind of pattern, and we'd have to put in different amounts of solar and batteries. Now let's move over to the solar pattern during the day. And if we have a higher capacity factor, and I'm going to put this back to a boring old flat load, then what did we have? With our base case, we had 24% and 7%. With a higher capacity factor, we get much higher savings. Lower capacity factor, we get lower savings, and we need kind of the battery even more. And then we can look at kind of our discharge analysis. Let's put it back to our base case pattern. And this kind of shows you how, if in these hours, 1 in the morning, in the middle of the night, we need to discharge. And so our storage is coming down. When we have a lot of solar power, it's building up, it's building up, it's building up. We're not discharging anything. It's putting it up until it comes down. That's going to be like a, whatever these people call it, a corkscrew, an opening balance and closing balance kind of thing. And then we can kind of do our little diagram here where we see how much of the power comes from batteries, how much is filled in still by diesel, and how much is served by solar. And if we put let's put a higher solar load capacity factor and make it coincident. And then we'll get kind of a different pattern. We didn't even need any diesel. It's almost like we're dispatching. If it's non-coincident, then we're taking all this solar power. We need to put a whole lot of batteries to get all these solar power so we can discharge it at nighttime. And the battery value is increased. So you see that it's a very important function of the load patterns. Now let's go to the load page. How am I doing? I'm okay. And here's how I started. Okay. I started with, okay, let's just take hours from 1 to 24. I think I've probably showed you this before. Shown you this, I should say. And then we have here are different load patterns, and we just use an index function and all of that. So this is just an index function just down at the bottom, a standard kind of thing, although, these kind of tools keep coming back and back and back. You can't use Power BI for any of this stuff, I don't think. Okay, enough of that. So we take the 3, and then now what I did, and perhaps I kind of overdid this a little bit, but I said, look, I want to start the analysis when we first kind of have some sunlight, and we have some extra sunlight that we can store, so that we can kind of look at our storage balance and kind of take it down to 0. In this case, it didn't go to 0, but that's what I did. Whether that was absolutely necessary or not is... so here's how I did it. I just put 8. I just put a number that we put up or down. Let's make this 7 maybe, perhaps. And then we say, well, if that 7 is equal to 24, reset it to 1. Otherwise, just make it plus 1. That is something crucial that just you should be using almost all the time to count. Or maybe there's a better way to do that, but I don't know. Okay, and then we use a lookup function. We look up on that 7, and we look up down to this number, which was 41, and then we look up to this index, which was 47. And I hope we use the entire line, 41 and 47, and we do the same thing to get the production. And then this is what we don't know. We don't know how much solar panels to put in. We only have 10 of load, Shift Control 1, but I'm putting 48 of panels in. That means that for some hours, look at all this. We only needed, in this case, I have non-coincident with solar. Let's put it at flat load just so I don't completely screw up. So we have 38 of extra load. That's the first calculation, and you just make sure that that's only positive, so you use the maximum function. This is so much like our cash flow waterfalls, it's kind of ridiculous. And then we say, well, how much diesel do we have? And this is diesel energy production without batteries. Okay, and I should be a little more careful with the titles, and I guess I'll have to stretch it out now. Oh no. Okay, and so now for some reason, I restated the load, put the solar, took away that, and see how much is left for diesel. It's kind of like a dispatch model where you look at your pure demand, take away the renewable, see how much is left for dispatchable plants. Okay, and then we do our balance analysis. We see, well, here's our surplus solar that we have, and here's our capacity of our battery, and that's the other thing we don't know. That's a blue one, a blue input. And then we take our opening balance, make it equal to our closing balance, and then we use the minimum and maximum. So we're only going to store something if the red one is greater than 0, which it always is. We don't really need the maximum because we already put it in. And then but we can't put any more in than our storage. So if for some reason in this hour we have actually more surplus energy because of this scenario than we had solar power, so we're just still wasting some of it. Pretty stupid, huh? Okay, it's probably just because it's not optimized. Okay, and then we keep track of the closing balance, and that is how much we have to put in and put out. Now, I didn't account for the efficiency here. I put these things here because I tried it at first, but the efficiency is nowhere in here. And so what we said, well, here's what we really care about. Here's the energy discharged, and then the energy discharged, this is before, this is just from the table, and then we have to reduce it, and then we can look at kind of how much diesel, it's the same kind of thing. Here's the solar, less how much of the solar was used for the load, and then we take the discharge, and the remaining amount goes to our diesel. Now, we could sit here and mess around. We could sit here and try to put higher solar in, and then if we put higher solar in, we should have put higher diesel in, and then I'm always looking at kind of how much is the total savings. Let's maximize the total savings that we have. Or we actually could also, just a minute. So I put the total cost. Remember, in the summary page, I hope you can visualize this and get a kind of clear idea what's going on the video. But on the summary page, we have the total cost of this entire system with batteries. And all we have to do is go to this solver, and I'm going to reset it just because it's so really easy. I did it all fancy and got all over fancy. All we want to do is minimize the total cost and nothing fancy. Just change both the battery capacity and the change the battery capacity and also change the solar. And then this is the kind of scenario we have, and we get 49% savings. And if I push this up a little bit down, it goes to 48 and 47. If I push this down a little bit, it goes to 47. So it looks like it might have really worked. If I put this up a little bit, it seems to go down, and down a little bit seems to go up. Now, if you, I'm going to have to redo the macro around here. I'm not going to. Here's what I'm going to do. We're already on 19 minutes. I am not going to. You can look at this macro. I'm just going to explain it. All you do is, well, oh, shoot, I'll do it because it's so easy, I think. You just make a macro. I'm going to call, this is going to be called solve 2 or something. Is that? I hope I don't have one. And then all we do is just take that solver and we just press solve. And then I'm just going to stop the, after it solves, we just stop the macro, and then we attach it to this button. Now I have to do a couple of things. Just 1 minute. Here's what I did. I set the stuff to 0 at first. I don't know. And then you need to have this solver reset button hit. So in this thing that says solve 2, I think that's what we just did. We need to just enter a couple of things at the top, and you also have to go to Tool References and make sure the solver thing is set. And that took me about a week to figure out. Okay, and so let's attach that macro, and now let's run it in. Let's run this macro with some different assumptions. So now instead of the flat load, let's put the non-coincident load and leave it on the higher capacity factor, and then let's minimize this one and see what kind of batteries and solar do you really need for this one. And the interesting thing, I'm getting close to the end. Oh my God, it worked, thank God. The interesting thing is you get different configurations, and you put so many more solar panels in because solar is so cheap now. It's run, this stuff works because solar is cheap. No other reason. And no other reason. If you put coincident with solar, then I suspect that there should be somewhat less batteries, perhaps not. Now, we're also going to show you something that I've been harping on like complete crazed fool, and that is that the carrying charge rate is so enormously important in all of this analysis. The wonderful thing, it shows that batteries really can work. And and now we have much more, I hope we had more solar relative to batteries. Let's again do the non-coincident with solar and solve it. Now, I'm going to change this and show you the dramatic effect, hopefully, of the carrying charge rate. And I hope you see a few things. Okay, well, I think there was a less relationship, whatever. And I'm gonna now let's be really optimistic. So I'm gonna use the best case. I just froze the panes. I'm gonna put the best case carrying charge in. And if I put the best case carrying charge in, then all this solar is so cheap, and the battery cost is not all that much more than the carrying charge rate for the solar and all that. And then now look, the solar cost doesn't look so great, but that's because we have so much solar, such a low kind of solar capacity factor. We pushed the capacity way down to get to get all the solar in, but it's still got a good cost. Now let's re-optimize it. Isn't this fun? Oh man, you could just sit here all day, press this solve button, and no. Okay. Could have a game. Who could win the prize? It's like a computer game or something. No, that's not true either. Okay, and when we do that one, now we get the same kind of pattern, but a 66% savings. Let's do the worst case. Let's put it on the worst case. Now we get, if we have the same pattern, we get a negative savings. Oh no, that didn't work. And when we put the solver in with that really high carrying charge rate with a high return on equity, low debt, and all that stuff, No battery capacity at all. Sorry, not worth it. Not worth it. You see, if I haven't convinced you, I did all those videos that got no views basically on all of this stuff with the carrying charge rate. When I talk about project finance, I say it's really about the carrying charge rate. Now the carrying charge rate is 19% for the solar, and because we have a return on equity that's so much higher than the inflation rate, and we have higher interest rates, probably not that unreasonable. These might be typical kind of parameters that you might use. Okay, and remember, I'm not going to go look at all these carrying charge rates, but they're basically little project finance, not little, reasonably complex project finance models. And I almost feel bad saying au revoir maintenant, because this is kind of exciting. Okay, and I'm going to save this file, and this file will be in the on the disk. And see, I can't even say goodbye. I bet you said goodbye to me. And that is right here on this, not on the solar section, but on this one, battery and comparative renewable analysis. Okay, and this is where I put a lot of the videos, and the file is not right here because I didn't finish it till just now. It'll be right here. Okay, and so okay.